anything worthwhile takes time and is a grind. And there's really no shortcut to success. I think if you want to be a success, whatever industry you're in, just start and keep going. You're going to have hurdles and setbacks, but I think if you're persistent and you keep pressing forward, I think that's part of my success is that I've been able to adapt and also work really hard. And in the world of instant gratification and social media, you're not going to get the results you want unless you work hard.
Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we sit down with executive leaders to explore what leadership really means through the lens of their stories, their wins, their struggles, their vision, and their lessons along the way. I'm Ty Hammond, founder of One Mountain Leadership and creator of the True Leadership Approach, an awareness-based path that helps leaders shift their focus from what to do about their problems to how to grow from them. Whether you're just stepping into leadership or are well-seasoned and at the top of your game, your potential won't be realized following someone else's script, but you can draw insights from their stories and turn it into wisdom by putting it into practice in your own life. Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we explore the essence of leadership beyond tactics and performance by sitting down with executives to hear what matters most to them. I'm your host, Ty Hammond. Today's guest is Beth Kessenich. Beth is an Emmy Award-winning media and advertising leader with over 14 years of experience spanning journalism, production, and sales. As VP of Sales and Business Development at Why Now Media, she builds and strengthens partnerships, drives strategy, and fuels growth. Known for her creative storytelling and cross-channel expertise, Beth has led high-performing teams, cultivated lasting client relationships, and executed impactful campaigns across TV, digital, and social channels. A graduate of Columbia and Villanova, she's also lived and worked in Paris, bringing a global perspective and a deep passion for meaningful, results-driven media to everything she does. It's a real pleasure for me to have Beth on the podcast today. Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, Beth.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I always start here with this question. Every leader, of course, every human being has a beginning. I found that who we are as leaders at work and in life begins well before we make it to any VP or C level title, oftentimes before we even make it into the workforce. I'm curious, who is someone from your early life or maybe an early experience, someone that or something that has shaped the kind of leader and person that you are today?
Yeah, I have two people that shaped my early years, and they are my two grandfathers. And they were really pivotal in my upbringing from 0 to 10. Unfortunately, they both passed away at an early age. One from the disease ALS and one from a heart attack, both at 62. So it was very early in their life, but they did so much in those 62 years. My grandfather on my dad's side was a true leader. He was a Marine. He graduated college at the age of 16, Notre Dame, and he went on to have a very successful career in finance and became the president of Citibank North America. And he was a really well-known pivotal figure on Wall Street who really inspired me in a lot of ways. And then my other grandfather was like the opposite end of the spectrum. He was a teacher. He ran a school called the Green Gorillas that was all about biodynamic farming. And he was an amazing storyteller and an amazing teacher and connector of people. And so, and he was kind of way before his time in his thinking about the environment. And he really wanted to leave the planet better for his grandkids. So I would say those two people were pretty pivotal. I spent a lot of time with them, in those 0 to 10 years. And they both had influences on me that I think carried throughout my education and my career.
I love that so much. In what ways do you feel like you see that influence playing out in who you are and how you lead today?
Yeah, I think in a few ways, but their ability to well, my one grandfather who was the teacher and the storyteller, his ability to connect with people and to just shape a good story. Journalism is storytelling, and that's kind of how I got into, the field. I started out as a journalist producer before moving into business development and sales. And I think, the ability to craft a story and shape someone's opinion is, what it's all about. And I think that that influence from him is carried throughout. I feel like getting into the media business, part of my goal was to tell great stories about amazing people and amazing things happening in the world. And so far, I've been able to do that in a lot of ways. So that was one side of it. And then the other side of it was from my other grandfather, I think kind of his marine grit and being able to just be resilient and bounce back and forward. Um, and I think, from him, I learned that the general eats with the soldiers. Like, you just have to be a part of the team and foster, communication and empower others around you, because no one man is going to do something all by himself. It's a team effort. And through, his grit and resilience, he was able to bounce back a lot from different things in his life, including battling a very serious disease for 7 years that most people pass away in 2 years from. So I think just having that, like, grit and determination and, ability to get to here, um, and the impressive thing that he rose through the ranks, in his industry himself is something that I wanna do in my industry.
Amazing. Well, I as someone who was also raised partially by my grandparents, and knowing that intergenerational also influence, there is so much interest there, and sounds like also like what contrast between these two influential figures, right? So much true leaders in their own right, and so distinct. It really is a good lead into my next question here, which is what this podcast is all about, right? True leadership, the essence of what leadership is. Of course, that means different things to different people. So what does true leadership mean, and maybe what makes a true leader to you?
Yeah, I think true leadership is leading by example. I'm the oldest of 4. I am, the oldest daughter, the oldest granddaughter. I think in some ways it's, like, inherent, and I felt like I was born with that leadership, but I also felt like there's things that happened along the way that have elevated it. Um, but yeah, I think true leadership is showing up, is also having an understanding of, like, self-awareness and where you wanna go, um, because not everyone is self-aware, and I think when whatever your passions are, I wanna go in this industry, I wanna do this. I think, the ability to, like, get real and know that, this is what I should be doing, and then being able to execute on it and lead by example, like I said before. Um, Half of it is showing up. I feel like, I wake up, I run, or I do Pilates, or I do something to start my day off right. And then, I'm on email and calling people and meeting people throughout my day. Um, and I think that, you really have to set the precedent when you're the leader in the company or whatever you're doing, on the team. And I think, when you are leading by example, it inspires others to do the same and also to work, hard for the common goal.
I think that's absolutely critical, that show, don't just tell, right? really, as you're saying, setting that example. You acknowledged right in the beginning of your response there, you felt some sense of, maybe it's being the oldest, right? Born into already, like kind of born into a leadership position to some
Yeah,
extent, because you're the
I
oldest of
really
four.
believe in birth order. I think
Yeah.
that's a huge thing.
Oh, I've seen it. So I'm an only child, but I definitely see it work out with my cousins and other folks that I know.
Yeah.
You also pointed to that you felt like there were particular experiences that you've had that, of course, have really elevated you. I'm curious if you can share a little bit about an experience that you really felt challenged you and maybe became a turning point in your own leadership journey.
Yeah, I mean, I literally have a memory, and this is, I'll talk about a professional one, but I think a personal one too. My brother is 2 years younger than me, and I remember being on a playground, and, I was the older sister. I could say, "Hey, do this," or "Go on the slide, go on the swing." And another kid had told my brother what to do, and I remember just, like, looking over at that other kid and being like, "You can't tell him what to do, but I can." And that's, not necessarily leadership, but I think it's, like, having that kind of confidence and also being, like, you know, I don't know, a little boss in a way. Professionally, I would say, working in the media industry is a challenge on a daily basis. It's constantly evolving, constantly changing. When, you think one thing is the way to go, everything shifts and AI is coming and all of that. Um, but I would say, I've always pivoted successfully in my careers, going from television to more digital first publishers to now social media, where most people are spending their time. And I think just being able to pivot and adapt in this business has been really critical to, honestly, across industries, right? Like, nothing is going to stay the same forever. And
or even for a week, probably.
yeah, and everything is moving, it feels like at a more rapid rate than ever. But I think being able to adapt and pivot and think creatively, what's next and what's coming is just the way to kind of go.
Yeah, I love that. That word adapt to me insinuates the willingness or ability to let go of
Mhm.
what I think I know or what I'm holding on to. I think that's so pivotal, in the journey of growth and of leadership and of life. I'm curious, looking back, what's something that you've had to outgrow or let go of in order to step into the leader that you are today?
Yeah, I mean, I think recognizing that you don't know everything and you don't have all the answers, and just knowing that maybe the 20-year-old that just got hired maybe knows more about that than you do. Um, I worked for particularly a French media company, and, it was very like French perspective, American perspective. And it's just interesting because, I've now worked for 3 companies that were European based and had US presence as well. And I think just understanding their thought process and how they think about something versus how we do in the US, is really interesting to consider. And also, like, accepting feedback and knowing that no one has all the answers. Even Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan doesn't have all the answers. So it doesn't matter how well known you are or how high you are on the food chain, like, everyone can contribute and everyone can learn something from the other.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And something that you said there in terms of, I'm curious if this resonates with you too, because I hear this so often with the leaders that I work with. It's letting go of, learning that you don't have all the answers, being okay with somebody else having the answers, but also letting go of needing to be the person that has the answers, especially as you move up in leadership, you become less responsible for having the tactical answer of what to do in a particular situation. It really requires letting go of the control of that, having the answer and the clear what to do in that instance.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And I think allowing, maybe a junior salesperson or an account manager to, I'm not a micromanager. And I think allowing people to be their true self and contribute what they are able to contribute is the best path, because everyone has something to contribute different and differently. And, I think it's, what makes companies so great is when there's different perspectives and different people are able to make an impact.
Well, Beth, I hope that everybody hears that and instills it immediately in their cultures across their companies, because boy, is it necessary. And that perspective and really embodying that is something that it really requires a lot of growth. I'm curious, thinking about your journey over the past few years, your journey as a leader. You've talked a lot about the necessity of learning and of growth here. So, what's been the most valuable investment that you've made in yourself and your own leadership and personal growth over the years?
Yeah, I would say two things. First is I went to Columbia for a master's program, but strictly because I wanted to prove to myself that I could create my own documentary. And I did everything from, shoot it to edit to script it, everything. And I think when you have a goal and you want to challenge yourself and you do it, that is great. So I invested in myself to get that degree because I wanted to that I could do that, but really just for me. And then secondly, I would say having sales training and kind of mentorship throughout my career. I've been exposed to some great leaders at the companies I've been at. um, Soledad O'Brien, former CNN journalist, was one of my bosses and mentors. She left CNN for her own production company, and I was her right hand.
I just
Um,
listened to her on a PBS show the other day.
Matter of fact, was that it?
Yeah.
But yeah, she's fantastic. I'm still close with her. And I think I've been lucky that I've had great mentors along the way, and I've been exposed to great leadership myself. The CEO of The Guardian, Eamon Storr, who I worked with for a couple years, he's also, really been a great mentor and person that's helped me grow in what I'm doing. Um, John Steinberg, who is the founder of Cheddar, who hired me for Cheddar. I had exposure to a lot of these great founders and CEOs. And I think when you're exposed to that level, you just absorb so much. And it's like a, free business class. But yeah, I think also the training and the mentorship that I've had have been pivotal in my success.
It sounds, I love it because it really creates this clear picture, right? At the beginning, you said leading by example. And
Hmm.
part of so much what I heard from you is you being on the receiving end of that example
Hmm.
of others, of mentors, and really just shows the impact that we have, not just as leaders, right? But just as human beings on each other. There's nothing that we do that doesn't have an impact. And we're blessed and fortunate if people show up in a way that we feel like models excellence and growth for us. And, if people show up in other ways, there's ways for us to learn that too. But I'm so glad that you mentioned the names as well. That's one thing that I ask people to do is mention the names of, the mentors, coaches, people that have, helped them along the way and inspired them along the way. So, and of course,
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like when you're I'll say golf as an example. When you're playing golf with someone who's a better golfer than you, it's like when you're playing, a sport with a professional athlete, like it elevates your game. And I think that, when you're around people who have done so many great things themselves, it elevates your game as well. So I think that surrounding yourself and attracting that just, brings it to the next level.
Absolutely. Well, leadership, of course, is so much about what we're shaping for tomorrow. I'm curious, what's your own vision for your leadership, your legacy, the impact that you want to have in the years ahead?
Yeah, I think I definitely want to be an influential person in the media and advertising space. I would love to be CEO of a major media company one day. I think, I'm on the trajectory to get there. I think my legacy, that's pretty deep. I'm 35, so I feel like I have a lot to think about.
No rush.
Um, I actually do. I'm that kind of nerd that has like my goals in my notes in my phone, and it's like CEO of media company, write a book, have a podcast. So I think, when you're really clear on the goals you want to set, you can achieve them down the road if you work at it. But legacy, I think I would love to, I really am connected to documentaries and to video storytelling. And I think if I can continue to elevate stories that I feel make a positive impact in the world, that is something that I want to keep doing. I've, worked with a number of organizations over my career that I've been able to elevate their stories, and it's directly impacted their business or their nonprofit. And yeah, I think documentaries and video is a really powerful medium. So I want to continue to be in that space and elevate those stories.
Fantastic. Well, I might have to just add a little for after our conversation. My wife is a documentary filmmaker above other things, so we can chat after our
I
little
will
conversation
connect
here.
with her after.
All right. Fantastic. Uh, of course, true leadership is going to require that continuous growth, all of those goals, the growth, the learning that you've been talking about here, thinking about what true leadership means to you, your vision for the future, everything that we've talked about. Now, what's your growing edge now, right? And in what ways are you currently being stretched or tested in leadership or in life today?
Yeah, stretched, I would say I left a fairly comfortable, large corporate media conglomerate, Altice USA, which is a great company, but it's very corporate and big, and thousands of people work there. To now, I am at Why Now Media, which is more of a media startup. And it's challenging in every way. I love the challenge. I feel like, I'm, working to make my mark. So I think if I can help grow this business and, get it out there in the right way, that would be a success. So yeah, I would say, I went from having all the resources to like being five heads at once. So it's a different kind of place where I am today, but we are, set up to for some great things in the future. And I think, the exciting thing is being able to build it and help it grow from the ground up.
What do you think is going to be the next level of leadership needed for or from you in order to help see that vision land? I hear the vision of why now and
Mhm.
see the inspiration of that. I'm curious in your sense of the ways that your leadership is going to need to grow in order to see that to fruition.
I think I will need to build a team around me to help see why now grow and succeed in the US. Right now, we have a fairly large team in London and Europe. And I'm, one of the first hires in the US market. So I think in order to elevate my growth, I'm going to need to hire some smart people around me. And also, I would say, continue to be out there in the market, going to industry events, getting the name out there, learning and adapting, and just building on the relationships that I've fostered over the last 14 years and continue to build on them and, see what makes sense in terms of partnerships and in terms of growth for the company.
Yeah, sounds amazing. Well, just sort of hearkening back to that realization that learning and growing requires consistently, letting go or growing beyond something. And it sounds like such of course, as transitions often are, right? But a move from a big media company to a smaller one, that, assumptions shift there and how we show up shifts there. And what an amazing opportunity to continue learning and growing, and certainly seeing the best for you in growing that team and success at Why Now Media, for sure.
Thank you.
So this last question is more of an invitation. You have the time and the space here to offer to our listeners whatever it is that's most in your mind and heart to share right now. Anything at all. Take your time. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I think I would just leave it with anything worthwhile takes time and is a grind. And there's really no shortcut to success, I think. And something for, the younger people that I'm working with and that, are listening. I think if you want to be a success, whatever industry you're in, just start and keep going. And, you're going to have hurdles and setbacks, but I think if you're persistent and you keep pressing forward, I think that's part of my success, is that I've been able to adapt and also work really hard. And you're not going to be able, in a world of instant gratification and social media, you're not going to get the results you want unless you work hard.
Well, extremely articulately said. I would say, you cannot rush growth. Growth happens in the time that it happens. But boy, hearing that willingness to continue showing up. Beth, I appreciate so much the wisdom that you've shared here today with me. I've gotten so much out of it. I'm sure that whoever listens is equally going to benefit from what you've shared here today. Thank you so much for being on the True Leadership Podcast.
Thank you, Ty. Loved it. Fantastic. I'll come back anytime.
That's it for this episode of the True Leadership Podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this to catch future episodes. This conversation was brought to you by One Mountain Leadership, where we help leaders grow the capacity, confidence, and presence of true leadership through the True Leadership approach. To learn more about the approach, our offerings, our community, and how we can help you realize your potential in both leadership and in life, visit us at onemountainleadership.com.